This is Lee Vetter with Godsey Ag. Today we're going to do a Tech Tuesday segment on Copperhead Ag and its John Deere closing tail repair kit. Here at Godsey Precision Ag and Great Plains Precision Ag, we are full line dealers for Copperhead Ag, and we're going to take a minute here and look at what the install looks like and what the different kits look like for these John Deere closing tail systems. So when you look at the standard John Deere closing tail system, whether that be the air actuated that has the airbag on it or the spring actuated, which is probably the more common type of closing tail system on Deere planters, they've got a couple things in common. They utilize the same system here as a bushing to allow you to retighten that so that the parallel arm here on the back where the closing wheels run can stay nice and tight, and it doesn't move on you side to side and have any slop as you're going across the field. So the standard bushing is a softer material that fits in there, and it wears more than the cast iron on the rear part of the closing system. What that does over time as this cycles and goes across the field, if it's a spring system, that spring is pulling this forward and it's causing it to have a huge pressure point right here, and any soil, sand, things like that that can get in there can start to wear and eat into the closing tail. And what that does is it starts to induce some slop and some wobble as this is no longer tight. And you can see the same thing with the airbag. As it puts pressure down, you'll start to see over time, if you pull this out, you'll see that the hole in the closing tail arm has become a little bit elongated, egg-shaped, and Copperhead Ag has come up with a way of fixing this. They've really got two options when you look at this. One is for new closing tail systems. For a new closing tail system, all you really have to do is buy their kit that has the bearing that goes inside. And this is it here. It's just got 4 small washers, 2 large washers to take up some gap in between the closing tail frame and the closing tail arm, and a couple of bolts. It utilizes the same nuts that come with the John Deere system. So that is for new installations. This is Copperhead Ag's used closing tail repair kit. The only notable difference between this and the repair kit that's for brand new tails is it does have quite a few more of the smaller washers, and it's got 2 of these races that are designed to be welded into place onto the older closing tails. And again, like I said, when you take this all off, you're going to see that you have some oblong shape to the hole in this rear portion of the closing tail. And honestly, most of that wear is going to be right here. The front may even have paint still on it. The whole purpose of these is to get the races welded in the right spot so that these bearings can ride inside of those and help eliminate that wear in the future. But it does require some welding. It's not real difficult welding. It's not highly detailed welding, but having even just a small 120 volt wire feed welder does make things pretty easy. So I'll go through the disassembly and how to mock this up before welding, and then we'll have some photos to kind of show what it looks like after it's done being modified and welded to. So in order to install these kits, you would have to take the closing system apart and have the tail with the parallel arms loose on its own. Pretty simple process to do if you've replaced these bushings in the past. What I have done is I found that a 30 millimeter socket fits the hole in the new closing tail very tightly. So I use that as kind of an anvil for how I can put my race on there and make sure that's located in the proper position. Again, you're going to see your wear is going to be on the rear side of this hole for the most part, especially on the spring related systems. The front may still have green paint on it because it doesn't really take any wear with that spring tension that's there. So you just take your race. I like to push the socket all the way to the front so it's making contact, get the race up against it, and then you're in a clamp it down and you're in a position to weld that. Copperhead Ag recommends a 1-inch bead around the top and the bottom. It doesn't have to be a bead all the way around. And again, this isn't super technical welding. A little 120 volt wire feed welder, whether it's gas or flux core, can do a very good job. This really doesn't have much load on it as it's working. It is just there as a guide for that bearing, and the bearing actually sits down just past the race into the factory hole that's there, so it's not taking a whole lot of side load as that bearing runs with this across the field. And again, you just have to disassemble this, clamp it all up, and the main thing is to make sure you get this nice and clean. These air closing tails tend to have this boss that runs around the outside, whereas the spring version of the closing system, this is completely flat, so it's a lot easier to get clean with a flap disc or a wire brush. But the install is pretty straightforward. We'll show some pictures of what it looks like when it's done, and to help give you some confidence to make this repair on your own in your shop. So just to better illustrate the differences between the OEM setup with the bushing and what the Copperhead Ag repair kit can do, as you can see, as this moves, this bushing really has no movement available to it. It has to move with the bolt and the nut that are tight on the inside. When we look at the Copperhead Ag system, it has the ability to spin and rotate, which gives it the ability to prevent more of that wear and tear as it goes across the field and gets sand and other particles and things like that in it. Really is a good option for an upgrade on your brand new John Deere planter or an older one that you're looking to bring back to life and take some of the lateral play out of your closing system. Feel free to give any one of us here at Godsea Precision Ag or Great Plains Precision Ag a phone call to visit about any of the upgrades that Copperhead Ag offers for your planter.